How's it going, Hodlers? Today we're going to be talking about Cardano and exactly why it is a good investment for the long-term future. And we're also going to be looking at some news, and we're going to be discussing what's happening right now in cryptocurrency and in Bitcoin. But first, before we get into it, go ahead and give me a like. Helps out share these videos out. Of course, subscribe for more crypto news and content. And let's go ahead and get into it. So first, before we get into any news, I do want to talk about where Bitcoin is currently. Bitcoin is tanking down to 31,636. So right now we are testing decisively in one way or another. Now we've discussed this before in the last video. We're going to break out either to the downside or to the upside. And whatever it is going to be, it's going to be very volatile no matter which way. Now, I have said before, I do think that Bitcoin can go sub 30K into the 24 to 27K zone. I don't know if it'll go any lower, but I wouldn't hedge my bets that it couldn't go as low as 20 potentially. But that would probably be the worst case scenario ever. If it does go down that low, of course, it won't stay up that far. Now, I'm not saying that that is the decision that it's making because right now it's still really in the air. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't think that right now it's breaking out, but it very well could be depending on where it is and how it's testing. Because if we do look at the 50-week moving average, we're still testing that 50-week and going to come in for a close soon. So our whole goal at this point is to close above the 50-week. The first bit of news is something that Jerome Powell said, and I promise I'm not going to spend too long on this, but it's just funny how Jerome Powell is throwing stones at crypto, especially when you have something like Cardano, like Bitcoin, and like these other cryptocurrencies. Maybe they're not widely used, but there's a lot of manipulation happening, and especially from the Federal Reserve and the United States government. So I wouldn't even take this news seriously. Obviously, nobody holds Jerome Powell in high regard. Maybe the people that are in the legacy financial system, but anyone that knows what's going on with fiat money, at this point, you know that Jerome Powell is basically leading the charge for printing more money and knows exactly what he's doing to the U.S. economy. And even though Bitcoin is crashing, the hash rate is going up, but of course that could be helping out the hash rate as well, but it would be reducing the profitability. Okay, so now into Cardano news. The first bit of news is Cardano has successfully upgraded to AlonzoWhite. There was a tweet out by input output. Hard fork is successful. Delighted to report that 1944 UTC time, we successfully forked the Alonzotestnet to the new AlonzoWhite node. This goes into a series of tweets. Over the past week, we've spun up a new network and onboarded our new intake ready to help us move us closer to smart contracts. Now the next stage of the journey begins. So just basically they discussed that they are Project Catalyst crew members with some Plusters partners and that they're monitoring the network closely, but everything so far has gone without a hitch. That's everything. They just thank everyone for a successful launch on Alonzo from testnet to AlonzoWhite and one step closer to smart contracts. Now, next up is we'll go to this article here. Cardano is outstripping Bitcoin in more ways than one. So it obviously is a bit of a leading title, but we'll go ahead and get into it. Cardano now positioned itself as a worthy Bitcoin competitor. Now, I want to be clear because we've talked about this a lot on this channel, and I know not all of you agree with me, but I believe in a multi-blockchain world, and there's plenty of space for multiple different projects, including Cardano and Bitcoin, and I don't think that they're even coming close to beating one another. I guess if you're looking at investments, sure. But I think this article is written basically on ROI compared to Cardano and Bitcoin, which is a fair assumption. So they talk about Cardano has always been mentioned in the same breath as some other promising altcoins. But very recently, Cardano toppled Bitcoin, and they say that that came from the eToro trading platform. And what they're basing this off of is ADA's year-to-date returns that toppled Bitcoin. Essentially, ADA received a more year-to-date return than Bitcoin, which it makes a lot of sense. And I think that this article and maybe other articles don't really quite understand exactly how certain things work. Whereas, when there's a smaller market cap, it takes less money to increase, so more people are going to make a better year-to-date return. So obviously, when you're speculating on something like Cardano, that really paid out for a lot of people, including myself. When you're speculating on something like Cardano, then of course you're going to get a greater return because Bitcoin has already solidified itself in the market. And that's just one part of taking a risk and getting into a project super early. I know my first entry for Cardano was around 3 cents. So of course, Cardano has beat the year to date, but again, I don't think Cardano and Bitcoin are really in any sort of competition in a way. I think there's a lot that Cardano just does on its own and that Bitcoin does on its own. Now, I do think Cardano fundamentally is a better currency than Bitcoin, but I do think that Bitcoin is a better store of value because it'll never change. So going into the chart quickly, because obviously we are in a bit of a downturn for Cardano, and we're going to go over to the 4-hour chart just to discuss exactly what we see in the near term. Now Cardano is slipping, and mostly this is due to Bitcoin kind of taking a tumble, but Cardano is at least rebounding at this point. Now everything is a little volatile right now because of Bitcoin's move. We currently see Ethereum at 1926. Now where is Cardano going to hold at? How far could Cardano go? Now we do see that Cardano has dipped below, down to below $1 over here. And at this point, we have a lot less to fall than here. So I do think that if we do go down, if we are pulled down by Bitcoin, we could potentially go down a little bit further into maybe the 90-cent zone. Now, again, with Cardano, it's never at these levels for long. So if it does get down to that level, make sure to set in a buy order, because most likely when Cardano hits these levels, as it has here before, and even here, when it does make these serious dips down, it rebounds almost immediately and fires right off. So it would be a good time to buy down in the bottom zones here. So anything down in this zone, essentially. So I would say basically, if you wanted to set up buy orders, I would take a look at setting up buy orders basically below $1.15. So we'll just take a look at that right here. So we'll just draw a zone, and I know I'm doing a measurement, not a box, but I'd probably say somewhere around here. Maybe your lowest buy order is maybe 90 cents. I'd probably say that's most likely where you want to be. Now, the very last thing I wanted to go over is the Cardano Foundation actually made some goals, some preliminary goals, and I know I haven't talked about it on the channel. I made mention, but I just wanted to go specifically where Cardano is going to go in the next couple of years. And I really want to put this in the forefront. Cardano is somewhat of a very long-term hold for me. I do believe in the project. I believe exactly where it's going to go. And yeah, I do think that eventually it is going to be a better currency than Bitcoin. I do actually believe that. But for now, Bitcoin is what it is, and there's plenty of room in the space for both projects to be doing exactly what they're doing. Now, with Alonzo and everything else, we have to keep the Cardano Foundation's goals in perspective as well. Obviously, Cardano Foundation is here to build the network and build the use of Cardano. So in 2021 to 2022, they're looking to onboard about 50 banks, introduce 3 supportive libraries or tools to help with creating use cases or inspire use cases, launching a developer portal and a number of third-party updates, increasing a quality of voting proposal, and increasing the interoperability between financial institutions, which I think this is going to be big. Now, of course, most banks will have to adopt cryptocurrency. I can't see them failing in any way. I know a lot of people say that crypto is going to kill the banks. I think there's going to be a medium level between CeFi and DeFi and, centralized banks and not centralized banks. I think the savvy are obviously going to go without a bank. Eventually, I'm not going to have a bank account. But for now, obviously, I do. Now, their 2023 to 2024 goals, they're looking to publish 3 white papers and about 5 case studies for Cardano, promote the growth in wallet addresses, so how many people actually have an ADA wallet, increase the diversity of the on-chain activity, onboard at least 3 Fortune 500 companies, and they would hold ADA in their treasury. Now, we do know ADA is being held as an asset in a trust. I think Grayscale is doing it, possibly BlackRock as well. But we know that there are big investor firms that are currently holding ADA. So I can only assume it would be something similar to MicroStrategy's putting it in their treasury or Tesla putting it in the treasury, just like Bitcoin. And of course, I think a lot of companies are going to do this and go to a lot of different cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, but a lot of companies will just stay with Bitcoin because that's the first and that's what they trust. And same with countries now. I'm sure countries will hold different types of cryptocurrencies in reserves. And then they're looking to increase the interoperability for chains and world systems, basically making Cardano working with as many systems as possible. The next high-level goals, 2026 and beyond, a suite of services for a nation. So who knows which country, which nation that could be. 10 Fortune 500 companies and about 1,000 subject matter experts, a decentralized protocol stack, ongoing assistance and regulatory framework, which is something that a lot of countries will need which is legislation and regulatory framework to make sure that there's no, mishaps or criminal activity happening on the blockchain, and at least 1 billion users, which is a very, very lofty goal. 1 billion people is a good amount of people, but I do think a system like Cardano, fully fleshed out, given the time, will hit these targets. That's it for me. I hope this video helped kind of understand a little bit about Cardano's pathway, where we're going to go in the long term. Of course, these are the Cardano Foundation projected goals, but we see exactly where Cardano is going to go. We see Alonzo being implemented, and once we have smart contracts and we're moving into more of the unbanked areas for Cardano, I think the user base is going to just come with it, and that is going to bring the value. Now, remember that Cardano is not only unlocking value, it's unlocking social capital. It's unlocking the potential of people in unbanked areas and areas that don't have financial services, and it gives those services directly to their hand, and that's a very powerful thing. Think about our cell phones, how powerful that technology is, and just compare that to having that power at your fingertips for money. That's it for me. Hopefully you guys liked. Go ahead and give me a like if you did like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more crypto news and content, and of course, happy hodling.